I'm Ellie, 32, and last Thanksgiving, I got a text that changed everything. Party's canceled for you, but your sister married well and deserves to be here. My dad's follow-up was even better. Learn from her. Marry someone of value. Sitting in my Seattle penthouse, reading those words while my housekeeper arranged imported orchids in crystal vases, I almost laughed. Almost. The irony was so thick you could cut it with my Platinum Amex. But let me back up to show you exactly how we got to this delicious moment of family dysfunction. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt completely invisible to your own family. You'll definitely want to stick around for what happened next. Growing up as the Bennett family disappointment was like being the understudy in your own life. Sarah, my younger sister, got the spotlight while I got the leftovers. She was the pretty one, the charming one, the one who married well and made our parents proud. I was just Ellie, the daughter who never amounted to anything. You know how some families have a golden child? Well, Sarah was platinum-plated with diamond accents. Every family gathering started with updates about her perfect life. Sarah's husband bought her a new Mercedes. Sarah's moving to that exclusive neighborhood. Sarah's joining the country club. Meanwhile, my achievements were met with polite indifference. Graduated summa cum laude? That's nice, dear. Got promoted again? How wonderful. The pattern was so predictable, I could have set my watch by it. But here's the thing about being underestimated. It gives you superpowers. While everyone was busy dismissing me, I was busy building an empire. The same family who thought I'd never amount to anything had no idea their disappointment was sitting on a fortune that would make their heads spin. See, I'd learned early that success was better served cold. And after years of being treated like the family failure, I was about to dish out a meal they'd never forget. Trust me, you don't want to miss how this story unfolds. Let me paint you a picture of my childhood. Every family photo tells the story perfectly. Sarah front and center, beaming like she owned the world, while I'm either cropped out or standing awkwardly to the side, like a distant relative who crashed the party. I was 8 when I first understood my place in the Bennett family hierarchy. Sarah had just turned 5, and my parents threw her this elaborate princess party. I'm talking pony rides, professional face painting, a cake that cost more than most people's rent. 50 kids showed up. My birthday 3 months later, pizza from a box, and 3 classmates in our backyard. When I asked why Sarah got the princess treatment, Mom patted my head like I was a confused puppy. Sarah needs more encouragement, sweetie. You're naturally independent. Independent. That was their code for, you're on your own, kid. The pattern continued through high school. Sarah struggled with basic math, so she got a private tutor. I was valedictorian, and they missed my graduation speech because Sarah had a softball game. You've always been self-sufficient, Dad explained when I asked why. Sarah needs our support. College was more of the same. I worked 3 jobs to pay my way through business school while Sarah got a full ride courtesy of the bank of Mom and Dad to study art therapy, which basically meant 4 years of Instagram-worthy trips to Europe to find herself. The kicker? When I graduated with honors and landed my first job at a Fortune 500 company, Sarah announced she was dropping out junior year to marry Mark, some guy she'd known for 6 months. The family's reaction? Pure celebration. Finally, their precious daughter had found her prince charming. I'll give you one guess which daughter got the congratulations party and which one got a lukewarm, "That's nice," dear over the phone. But you know what they say about the quiet ones, we're usually plotting something. And boy, was I plotting. Mark Sullivan was everything my family valued in a son-in-law. Decent job in finance, clean-cut appearance, came from a good family, whatever that meant. He was perfectly ordinary. But he treated Sarah like a queen, which in my parents' eyes made him worthy of sainthood. The wedding was a 3-ring circus with a guest list that read like the social register. No expense was spared for their princess. The dress alone cost more than my annual salary at the time. I was assigned bridesmaid duty. Naturally. But spent most of the reception watching my family fawn over the happy couple while I nursed a glass of champagne and contemplated the beautiful irony of it all. You see, while everyone was celebrating Sarah's brilliant catch, I was already 3 years into building something they couldn't even comprehend. The consulting firm I'd started on weekends was quietly accumulating clients who paid more for a single project than Mark made in 6 months. But I kept my mouth shut. Called it professional discretion, but really, I was learning to enjoy being underestimated. There's something deliciously powerful about being dismissed by people who have no idea what you're capable of. After the wedding, the family dynamic shifted into overdrive. Sunday dinners became Sarah Appreciation Society meetings. Every conversation revolved around her new house, her new furniture, her new life as a proper married woman. I'd sit there eating mom's pot roast, listening to them dissect Sarah's latest social media posts, like they were analyzing scripture. Did you see the photos from their wine tasting weekend? Mom would gush. Mark is so generous. Dad would add approvingly. Sarah really chose well. The subtext was always there, hanging in the air like expensive perfume. Why can't you be more like your sister? I'd smile, nod, and mentally calculate the revenue from my latest corporate acquisition. Because while they were busy praising Sarah's choice in men, I was making choices that would change everything. I just wasn't ready to show my cards yet. Sometimes the best revenge is patience. And trust me, mine was about to pay off spectacularly. The reason I kept my success under wraps has everything to do with a lesson I learned the hard way about 5 years ago. His name was David Chen, and he was everything a woman thinks she wants. Charming, attentive, and completely fascinated by my mind. Or so I thought. We met at a networking event where I was speaking about emerging market strategies. David approached me afterward with intelligent questions and genuine interest in my work. For 6 months, he was the perfect boyfriend. Flowers, thoughtful texts, weekend getaways to his family's lake house. The romance ended abruptly when I overheard him on a phone call with his brother. Trust me, Ellie's company is worth millions. Once we're married, I'll have access to everything. She's so focused on business, she'll never see it coming. That night, I confronted him. David's mask slipped completely. Come on, Ellie. Did you really think someone like me would be interested in someone like you for your personality? He gestured dismissively at my appearance. You're nice enough, but let's be realistic about what you bring to the table. The breakup was swift and surgical. David found himself mysteriously unable to secure financing for his startup, his references suddenly unavailable, his professional network eerily silent. Funny how that works when you're a nobody trying to scam somebody with actual influence. That's when I made the decision to go underground with my success. I kept the modest apartment, drove a 5-year-old Honda, and dressed down for family gatherings. Let them think I was still struggling while I built my empire in shadows. The strategy worked perfectly. No more fortune hunters, no more fake friends trying to get close to my wallet. Even my own family continued treating me like the poor relation, while I quietly acquired companies and built wealth they couldn't imagine. I learned to find genuine pleasure in their dismissal. Every time Dad made a comment about my career, every time Mom suggested I should settle down like Sarah, I'd smile and think about the 7-figure deals I'd close that week. Because the beautiful thing about being underestimated is that nobody sees you coming until it's far too late. Sarah's transformation after marriage was something to behold. Suddenly, she was an expert on wine, interior design, and social etiquette. Her Instagram feed became a carefully curated display of upper-middle-class perfection, farmers' market hauls, couples' spa weekends, and artfully arranged coffee cups with inspirational quotes about loving your life. The family ate it up with a spoon. Sarah's really blossomed, Mom would say during our monthly coffee dates. Marriage agrees with her. Mark brings out her sophisticated side. I'd nod and sip my latte, mentally reviewing the acquisition proposal I'd received that morning from a tech startup begging me to buy them out. But sure, Mom, let's talk about Sarah's sophisticated side and her newfound appreciation for organic kale. The contrast between their perception of our lives and reality was so stark, it stopped being painful and started being entertaining. They'd celebrate Sarah's new throw pillows while I signed contracts worth more than their house. They'd praise Mark's promotion to senior analyst while I decided whether to expand my operations to Europe or Asia first. The funniest part? Mark worked in finance, but he was strictly small potatoes corporate stuff. Decent salary, solid benefits, respectable career track. Exactly the kind of stable, unimaginative path that impressed parents but built no real wealth. He was a cog in someone else's machine, while I was building machines of my own. But to my family, he was the golden son-in-law who'd rescued their daughter from spinsterhood and given her the proper life she deserved. Meanwhile, I was still the spinster daughter who focused too much on work and would never understand the joy of true partnership. If only they knew that while they were worried about my love life, I was busy becoming the kind of woman who could buy and sell their son-in-law's entire company before lunch. The irony was so perfect, I sometimes wondered if the universe had a sense of humor. During family dinners, I'd listen to them discuss Mark's career with such reverence, knowing that in a few months he'd be sitting across from me in a boardroom, completely unaware that his wife's unsuccessful sister held his professional future in her hands. The anticipation was delicious, almost as delicious as the humble pie they were all about to eat. 3 months before that fateful Thanksgiving text, something beautiful happened. Mark Sullivan got promoted to senior financial analyst at Bennett Industries. The company I acquired and renamed after my family, now owned entirely by me. Yes, you read that right. The company I purchased and rebranded, named after my family but belonging entirely to me. The poetry was too perfect. I'd been watching his resume circulate through HR for weeks. Mark was competent enough, if unimaginative, and his experience made him a decent fit for our expanding finance team. When his application landed on my desk for final approval, I nearly laughed out loud. Here was my chance to have some fun. I approved his hire with one small modification. I requested he be placed on the executive track, reporting directly to our CFO and occasionally interfacing with senior leadership. Translation: he'd be in meetings with me. The sister-in-law he'd never actually bothered to meet. See, here's something hilarious about my family dynamic. Despite being married to my sister for over 2 years, Mark and I had never been formally introduced. I'd see him at family gatherings, sure, but I was always the background sister, the one who helped in the kitchen while he held court with Dad about sports and investments. Sarah never made an effort to bring us together, and honestly, I preferred it that way. It meant Mark Sullivan had no idea what Ellie Bennett looked like. He knew Sarah had a sister, knew I was unmarried, and struggled professionally, but couldn't pick me out of a lineup. Perfect. His first day at Bennett Industries was a Tuesday in September. I watched through my office window as he toured the building, looking appropriately impressed by our headquarters' sleek design and obvious prosperity. Our HR director, Janet, walked him through the standard orientation, explaining company culture and introducing him to key department heads. And you'll occasionally work directly with our CEO, Janet mentioned as they passed my office. Ms. Bennett is very hands-on with senior analyst development. Looking forward to meeting her, Mark replied politely, not knowing he was standing 10 feet away from the family disappointment who'd just become his boss. I had to bite my lip to keep from smiling. This was going to be even more fun than I'd imagined. The stage was set, the players in position. All I needed now was the perfect moment to reveal my hand. Something told me that moment was coming soon. 2 months into Mark's tenure at Bennett Industries, Janet from HR called him with news that would change everything. He'd been selected for the quarterly leadership summit, an exclusive meeting with senior executives and the CEO herself. This is a huge opportunity, Mark, Janet explained over the phone. Ms. Bennett specifically requested you be included. She's been impressed with your quarterly projections. Mark nearly dropped his coffee. A personal request from the CEO? He'd been hoping to make a good impression, but this exceeded his wildest expectations. When he hung up, he immediately called Sarah with the news. That's wonderful, honey, Sarah said, though her voice carried that distracted tone she got when scrolling through social media. When is it? Next Friday. It's a formal presentation to the executive board, followed by a dinner reception. Family members are invited to the reception portion. He paused, excitement building. Sarah, this could be my shot at fast-tracking to management level. For the first time, Sarah sounded genuinely interested. Family members? So I'll finally get to meet this mysterious CEO who's been giving my husband all these opportunities? Apparently so. Her name's Ellie Bennett. Any relation to you with that last name? Mark asked casually. The line went quiet for so long Mark thought they'd been disconnected. Sarah? You there? Yes, Bennett is a common name, Mark. Probably just coincidence. But something in her tone suggested otherwise. What do you think will happen when family secrets start unraveling in corporate boardrooms? The tension is about to reach its breaking point. That evening, Mark brought home the official invitation, printed on heavy cardstock with the Bennett Industries logo embossed in gold. Sarah examined it like it might bite her, her face growing paler as she read. Executive Leadership Summit with CEO Ellie Bennett, she read aloud. Mark, we need to talk. Is everything okay? You've been acting strange since I mentioned her name. Sarah set the invitation on their kitchen counter and took a deep breath. Ellie Bennett is my sister. Mark stared at her. Your sister? The one who never comes to family events? The one your parents say is struggling professionally? Yes. Sarah's voice carried an edge of irritation. Look, we don't really talk about Ellie much because there's nothing to talk about. She's never made anything of herself. But Sarah, she's the CEO of a major corporation. My boss. This doesn't make sense. Maybe there's been some mistake. Maybe it's a different Ellie Bennett. But even as she said it, Sarah didn't sound convinced. Mark pulled out his laptop and navigated to the company website. The executive page featured professional headshots of the leadership team, but the CEO's photo was notably absent, just a silhouette placeholder with E. Bennett, Chief Executive Officer, underneath. She must be very private, Mark murmured. In all the company materials, she's just referred to as Ms. Bennett or E. Bennett. I've never even seen a photo. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from their mother. "Speaking of Ellie," she said with forced casualness, "Mom wants to know if we're coming to Sunday dinner this week. She's making her famous pot roast." "We should ask your parents about this Bennett Industries thing," Mark suggested. "No." Sarah's response was sharp enough that Mark looked up from his laptop. "I mean, why complicate things? If it's really my sister, which I doubt, we'll find out Friday. No point getting everyone worked up over nothing." But Mark could see the wheels turning in his wife's head. For the first time since he'd known her, Sarah looked genuinely worried about her sister. The question was why. The week leading up to the summit crawled by like a guilty conscience. Mark threw himself into preparation, rehearsing his presentation until Sarah threatened to hide his laptop. He'd been asked to present a strategic analysis of market trends affecting the company's expansion plans, essentially a test of whether he could think beyond basic number crunching. Meanwhile, Sarah grew increasingly agitated. She snapped at the grocery store clerk, obsessed over her outfit choices for the reception, and called in sick to her part-time job at the art gallery twice. When Mark asked what was bothering her, she claimed pre-event jitters. "I just want to make a good impression on your colleagues," she said, which was the first lie she'd told him since their wedding day. On Thursday night, Sarah finally cracked. "Mark, if this CEO really is my sister, you cannot mention our family situation to her." "What family situation?" The way things are between us. Ellie's always been sensitive about feeling excluded. If you bring up family dynamics, she might take it out on your career." Mark set down his tablet. "Sarah, are you saying your sister would sabotage my job over personal issues?" "I'm saying Ellie's always been jealous of me, of our life. If she has any power over your career, we need to be very careful not to trigger that jealousy." The irony was stunning. Sarah was worried about Ellie's jealousy while sitting in the living room that Mark's Bennett Industries salary had furnished, wearing jewelry purchased with his Bennett Industries bonuses, planning to attend an event at the company owned by the sister she'd spent years dismissing. But Mark was too focused on his career prospects to appreciate the irony. All he heard was a warning about family drama potentially affecting his professional future. "Don't worry," he assured his wife. "I'll keep everything strictly business." If only he knew that ship had already sailed the moment he'd married into the Bennett family. Friday morning arrived crisp and clear. The kind of Seattle day that made the city look like it belonged in a tourism brochure. Mark arrived at the office early, his presentation materials organized in the leather portfolio Sarah had given him for luck. The executive conference room was a masterpiece of understated elegance, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, a polished mahogany table that could seat 20, and original artwork that probably cost more than Mark's annual salary. He took his assigned seat and tried to calm his nerves by reviewing his notes one final time. "Impressive setup," commented Janet, settling into the chair beside him. "Ms. Bennett designed this room herself when she renovated the building 3 years ago." "Has she been CEO long?" Mark asked, fishing for information. "About 5 years now. She took over when the previous owner retired and sold her the company. Youngest CEO in the industry at the time." Mark's calculator brain automatically did the math. If Ellie Bennett had been the youngest CEO 5 years ago, and his sister-in-law was 28 now, the timeline could actually work. His stomach began developing an uncomfortable knot. Other executives filed in: the CFO, VP of Operations, Head of Human Resources, several senior directors. Mark recognized most of them from company emails and presentations, but the CEO remained conspicuously absent. At exactly 10 a.m., the conference room doors opened. Ellie Bennett entered with the kind of presence that commanded immediate attention. She wore a perfectly tailored navy suit that probably cost more than Mark's car. Her dark hair pulled back in an elegant chignon that revealed diamond earrings catching the morning light. She moved with the confident stride of someone who owned not just the room but the entire building. Mark's breath caught in his throat. He'd seen this woman before. Sunday dinners, family gatherings, always in the background, always dressed down, always dismissed by his wife's family as the daughter who'd never achieved anything meaningful. "Good morning, everyone," Ellie said, her voice carrying the warm authority of someone completely comfortable with power. "Thank you for joining me for our quarterly leadership summit." Her eyes swept the room, professional and composed, until they landed on Mark. For just a moment, something flickered across her expression. Amusement? Perhaps? Or satisfaction? She knew exactly who he was. And now, finally, he knew exactly who she was. "Let me start by introducing our newest team member," Ellie continued smoothly, as if she hadn't just turned Mark's world upside down. "Mark Sullivan joined our finance team 2 months ago and has already made significant contributions to our quarterly analysis." Mark managed to stand when she gestured to him. though his legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Around the table, senior executives nodded approvingly. He was being recognized by the CEO in front of the company's leadership team, a career-defining moment that should have thrilled him. Instead, all he could think about was every dismissive comment his wife and in-laws had made about Ellie over the past 2 years. "Mark, would you like to present your market analysis?" Ellie asked, settling into her chair at the head of the table with the graceful composure of someone who'd never doubted her place in the world. Somehow, Mark found his voice and delivered his presentation. His analysis was solid, his recommendations thoughtful, his delivery professional despite the chaos in his head. When he finished, the room erupted in polite applause. "Excellent work," Ellie said, and Mark caught something almost fond in her tone. This kind of strategic thinking is exactly what Bennett Industries values in our team members. The meeting continued with department updates and strategic planning, but Mark absorbed none of it. He kept stealing glances at his sister-in-law, his boss, trying to reconcile this polished executive with the woman his family had trained him to see as a failure. When the business portion concluded, Ellie made an announcement that sent Mark's stomach plummeting. "Before we move to the reception, I'd like to address something personal." She stood, hands clasped behind her back, every inch the confident CEO. "Several of you may not know that one of our newest team members is actually family. Mark is married to my younger sister, Sarah." A murmur of surprise rippled around the table. Mark felt heat creep up his neck. "I want to assure everyone that Mark's position here is based entirely on merit. His qualifications and performance speak for themselves." Ellie's gaze found Mark's. Family connections neither helped him get this job, nor will they influence his career trajectory going forward. "We believe in earning success at Bennett Industries." The emphasis on earning wasn't lost on anyone in the room, least of all Mark. As the executives began filing out for the reception, Ellie approached him. "Mark, could you stay a moment? I believe we have some catching up to do." When the conference room emptied, leaving just Mark and Ellie facing each other across the polished mahogany table, the silence stretched like a held breath. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Seattle's skyline glittered in the afternoon sun. But Mark's attention was entirely focused on the woman who'd just revealed herself to be everything his family claimed she wasn't. "I suppose you have questions," Ellie said, moving to the credenza where bottles of water sat in precise rows. "A few thousand," Mark admitted, "starting with why you never corrected us. About who you are, what you've accomplished." Ellie handed him a water bottle, her expression thoughtful. "When was I supposed to do that?" "Exactly? At the family dinners where I helped serve food while you and my father discussed investments? During the holiday gatherings where Sarah showcased her latest purchases while everyone praised your provision for her?" Mark winced. "We never gave you the chance." "No, you didn't. But that taught me something valuable about people. They see what they expect to see. Your family expected me to be the disappointing daughter, so that's all they could recognize, even when evidence to the contrary was sitting right in front of them." "Sarah's going to be here for the reception," Mark said, dreading the moment his wife walked into this beautifully appointed conference room and realized exactly how wrong she'd been about everything. "I know. Janet mentioned you'd requested a +1. Ellie settled into her chair, completely at ease with the situation that had Mark's palms sweating. "This should be interesting." A knock at the door interrupted them. Janet peeked in. "Ms. Bennett, the reception guests are arriving." "Thank you. We'll be right there." As they walked toward the executive dining room where the reception was being held, Mark struggled to process the complete reversal of everything he thought he knew. The sister his family pitied owned the company that paid his salary. The woman they'd dismissed as a failure had just given him career opportunities he'd never dreamed of accessing. The executive dining room was even more impressive than the conference room, with panoramic views of Elliott Bay and elegant table settings that spoke of understated luxury. About 30 people mingled with cocktails. Executives, senior staff, and their spouses. Mark spotted Sarah immediately. She stood near the windows, looking stunning in the black cocktail dress she'd spent a week choosing. But as her eyes found his across the room, then shifted to see Ellie beside him, her face transformed from social smile to shocked recognition. For a long moment, the two sisters simply looked at each other across the elegant space. Sarah's expression cycled through surprise, confusion, and finally something that might have been shame. Ellie approached with the gracious composure of a hostess welcoming an honored guest. "Sarah, how lovely that you could join us." "Ellie?" Sarah's voice came out smaller than Mark had ever heard it. We didn't know that I'd made something of myself after all." Ellie's tone held no malice, just a gentle amusement that somehow made the moment even more devastating for Sarah. "No, I suppose you wouldn't. You never asked." Around them, other reception guests continued their conversations, unaware of the family drama unfolding in their midst. Mark stood between his wife and sister-in-law, finally understanding the full scope of his family's blindness. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "We all do." Ellie studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Mark, you're a good man and an asset to this company. Your future here will be determined by your work, not by family history. I hope that's clear." "It is, and I'm grateful. Truly." As for the rest, Ellie's gaze shifted to Sarah, who stood frozen with her cocktail glass gripped like a lifeline. Some bridges can be rebuilt, and others are better left burned. The choice of which this becomes is entirely yours. With that, she moved away to greet other guests, leaving Mark and Sarah to grapple with the revelation that everything they'd believed about family hierarchy had just been turned upside down. Later that evening, as Mark and Sarah drove home in silence, he replayed every family gathering, every dismissive comment, every moment when they'd failed to see Ellie for who she really was. The woman they'd pitied had been watching them the entire time, building an empire while they celebrated scraps. "She's really done it," Sarah said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "She's really made something of herself." Mark nodded, thinking about the opportunities ahead, the career growth possible under Ellie's leadership. But more than that, he was thinking about the grace she'd shown in not using her position to humiliate them publicly, even though they'd certainly earned it. Some people, he realized, were content to let their success speak for itself. Ellie Bennett was apparently one of them, and Mark Sullivan was lucky enough to work for her.